You are live. Do, 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 do.
Oh, it seems like it might be now. I keep refreshing on the app just to make sure that we're showing.
Okay, awesome sauce. Okay. Well, thank you, Serena, for your patience, and welcome if anyone else is watching. Although it's an awkward time of day for a lot of people, so I imagine that it's going to be more of a replay issue. Just waiting for OBS to see if it will record. No, it can't do it. Okay.
But I can see we are live, so if you can then actually I'm gonna close, otherwise it's gonna get confused. If you can then download the video from Facebook, then that'll be the recording right there.
Yeah, that'll do it, won't it? Awesome. Okay. Thank you to Serena for joining me today, despite my hilarious tech issues, which I thought would be easier this week because last week it was similar, but here we are anyway. So Serena, hi. Thanks for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Been there with the tech, so I know the pain, and no worries at all. We got there in the end.
Bless you, bless you. So tell us a little bit about what it is you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So together with my husband, Eugene, we are the co-founders of Whole Shift Wellness, a coaching company which specializes in bespoke programs for time-pressed female leaders. We have over 20 years of combined experience in different fields of the health and wellness industry. I'm a certified plant-based nutrition consultant, yoga teacher, fitness trainer. My husband has a host of certification of his own, qualification of his own. This has allowed us to develop a proven method to shift you to your most fit, healthy, and confident self within 1 year. And I am also the very proud author of my book, Make the Shift. Yay! Which is available on Amazon.
Book.
Yes, as a paperback, Audible, or Kindle book. And that's where we've distilled our entire proven methodology.
Amazing. Okay, hopefully after this you can pop a link in the group to your book, because I'm sure that'll be really helpful. I know there's quite a few bookworms in the group, so that'll be awesome. So interesting that you've specified females in your blurb there. How did that come about? How is that your ICA, your ideal client avatar?
Yeah, I mean, that just happened organically, it just so happened that through the years, it's not that we don't work with male professionals, of course we do, but we found that our niche, it tends to be female leaders because they struggle from very specific challenges revolving around personal responsibilities, the responsibilities of very often caretaking for children, and also, many of them run a business or have very high responsibilities in the workplace as well. And there's just this tendency, which is very predominant in female leaders, of always tending to others first before we take care of ourselves. And I think I can resonate with that because I am a female business leader myself. So I'm very present with that tendency. I have it in me also. But it becomes very hard for us to prioritize our health and well-being, to put it first before anything else, especially before family dependence, work responsibility. And so that's where we came in and have discovered ways to allow them to make the shift first and foremost at the level of mindset, and then equip them with the tools that they need to be able to then make effective improvements in their lifestyles.
That's so interesting. Do you know, even within my own coaching business, I would say that I end up often attracting females. I think probably for the same reasons that you've specified. I think there's sometimes a little bit more to juggle or mindset shifts to make, like you say, about not putting other people first or finding a way to deal with things like mum guilt and working out ways of learning how to put yourself first without feeling like you're then not helping the other people that you should be helping at the same time, whether that's your clients, your kids, elderly parents.
Absolutely. It's a big deal. It is a big deal. The repercussions are deep and wide reaching because it affects, first and foremost, our health and well-being. And then as a result of that, everything that we do, our work, how we show up in our relationships, how we do anything and everything in our lives. And so I am incredibly passionate about this niche in particular, because there's just so much powerful work that needs to be done still, even culturally, from the perspective of how we are raised, and how society frames us. And so I find it incredibly rewarding to make a difference in that space.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I can certainly resonate with that myself, and I'm sure quite a few people in the group will hear themselves being described in one way or another. And of course, like you said at the beginning, it's not solely women. It just
No,
often is, isn't it? So
course.
it's not to say in any way, shape, or form that you can't work with chaps. It's just that sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Correct.
Fabulous. So, what is one of your methods, I suppose? So take, for example, my ideal client, who is a letting agent. She's probably running her own business, mostly by herself. She's probably got one or two staff members, maybe bigger, but she's certainly the leader. But she's also got children, whether they're grown up or little, probably, primary school age. How on earth, in amongst all of the things that she's got to deal with, whether she's got a partner or not, is she going to find time to think, oh, I must go for a walk? It's not that high up your list, is it? So how can you start helping her? Because I imagine that, helping her is a year-long process, as you said, but where do you
3
even
months minimum, I would say. 3 months minimum, I find, is the minimum time commitment which should be willing to make to really start seeing profound transformation. And then, of course, it's a lifelong process, but I think, and I like to say 3 months, because the first and most fundamental shift that needs to take place around mindset is that of stepping out of the short-term fixed solution,
right,
epidemic, which is predominant in my field, of hoping to find something that will work in 1 day, 1 week, or even 1 month, which tends to lead us to pursue all those solutions, extreme solutions, whether it's extreme detoxes, extreme fitness, pills, potions, cleanses, in the hope that we can just get it done as quick as possible and just get somewhere where we feel a bit better, and then we can start thinking about long-term change. And that mindset is so detrimental, and actually, I must say, is one of the greatest hurdles, because every single one of our shifters come to us with some degree of trauma around having gone down those routes for sure more than once in their lives. And the emotional scars, as well as the physical, some of them have actually hurt themselves. Some of them are afraid of feeling hungry because they've starved themselves. Like, literally, the repercussions are profound. For every time you fail at one of those, you're going to make it so much harder to pick yourself back up again. Sorry, I opened a little bit of a parenthesis there because it's a very important, hot topic.
It certainly is.
Yeah. But so going back to your question, which is, how does our methodology work and how does it stand apart from the rest? So if you think of your optimal health and well-being as a tripod, right? Like a structure with 3 legs. What happens to a tripod if even just one of the 3 legs is a little bit weaker than the others?
Gonna fall over.
Correct. That structure feels weak and unstable. Eventually will fall down, or it feels like it could fall down any minute, right? And how that tends to show up in your life is that you're either finding it incredibly hard to reach your health and wellness goals, or even if you do reach them, it's incredibly hard to sustain them. It feels like you're having to choose between living life and being healthy. It's like either or. Either I'm healthy or I'm actually enjoying my day-to-day life. And so sooner or later you give up. And where that stems from, it stems from not creating a strategy which is effective, bespoke, and sustainable, which allows you to strengthen all three legs consistently at the same time. We call them the three pillars of health and well-being. Human nature leads us to want to work on the things which we're already somewhat good at. So we double down on maybe one pillar, two pillars, the ones that we already feel like we're doing okay with, or that we already feel strong in, or like we think if we love fitness, we want to do more fitness. If we understand food, we try and get even better with food. Nobody I've ever met understands the importance of creating a strategy which allows you to strengthen all three pillars in a systematic, sustainable, and bespoke way. Once you realize that and start operating at that level, you actually are able to achieve better results with less effort. Because think about it, it's that balance of the three, we call them the three Fs, the three pillars. You know, it's magical when the realization occurs and it shows up as better results, that you don't have to do more to achieve more. You don't have to work harder to get better results. You have to work smarter, you know. And that's how we transform their lives in a way that works and that fits within their busy schedule. You know, it's strategy fundamentally.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, it's really funny because my coaching business is the same. It's a pyramid of success. So the bottom of the triangle, the bottom of the pyramid is well-being, because without that, nothing matters. And then one side is process training, because like you say, if you've got strategies in place, you're working harder, not smarter. And then the sprinkling on the top, or the other side of the pyramid, is digital marketing, because we live in a digital age, and marketing encompasses so many different things. So yeah, I definitely understand the three pillars model, because it's pretty much the same as my own. What are the three Fs? So we're talking about food, fitness, and
Focus.
Focus. I like it. Okay.
And focus, by the way, the way we mean focus is not just the ability to concentrate. You know, it's not the ability to go after our goals, because you know, our shifters are incredibly successful professionals. They've achieved incredible things in their lives. In fact, actually, that's very often that's where the frustration stems from. Why can't I do this? I've done so much. I've achieved so much success. I'm smart. I'm not stupid. What's wrong with me? They tell me. And I tell them, nothing. Nothing. You just lack know-how and strategy. You're not and by the way, the focus pillar, which for us is anything to do with mindset and mindfulness, is how you train your mind, which most of us don't. I mean, of course, now I do. It's one of the most fundamental things I do every day. But we're not educated on the importance of training our minds as much, if not more, than our bodies. We're not taught how to. It's just still an area that is massively untapped, underestimated, undeveloped. And it's the one pillar, sadly, that we see as being most neglected, which is it's a big deal, because it's the one that makes everything else possible and easier.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think I was in a training course yesterday, because I'm training up in NLP and timeline therapy and hypnosis, to make sure that I've covering all of those kind of focus mindset things in an even more formal way. More tools, you know, to use for clients. And in that, they use the example of what's his name, Mr. Bannister, who could, you know, before that they couldn't run a 4-minute mile, and then the minute he learned to do it, somebody else, Charles, a few months later, even beat his 4-minute mile. And we understand, we hear that story, it's not an unfamiliar story, but no one's actually teaching us how to do that, unless you're an elite athlete. You know, it's not part of your school education, or your parents aren't taught it when they've given you in the hospital. So what, is it totally bespoke, or is there something that you could say, actually, one of the first things we start with is?
Yeah, I mean, so each of our pillars has another 3 pillars within it. So it's almost like a house of cards, you know, it's like a structure whereby each element supports the overall. And so the 3 pillars of focus are empty, concentrate, reinforce. right? Empty, concentrate, reinforce. Empty your mind of non-conducive thoughts and limiting beliefs. Concentrate it on your newer goals, aspirations, and really create affirmations which are gonna train your mind to think in a way that's conducive to what you're aiming to achieve. And you're gonna reinforce this process, frankly, every single day, if you ask me, but a minimum of once a week. Like literally, that is the minimum viable if you want to genuinely start seeing new results in your life. So those are the 3 pillars of focus. And then the 3 pillars of food: more plants, more water, more natural. And the 3 pillars of fitness: strength, flexibility, and cardio. So your strategy, your health and wellness strategy, needs to tick all those boxes. Now, when I say it like this, they look at me and they're like, oh my God, that's going to take 5 hours a day. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because it also, and that's where the bespoke element comes into place, is we look at your day-to-day life, we see where you're at with it, and we create a plan which can take as little as 5 to 10 minutes a day, if that's all you have available. But that still ticks all the boxes needed, that still achieves overall balance. So it's so that you, instead of aiming for temporary change at the superficial level, you're achieving profound transformation at the root level, the kind that once it's yours, nobody can take it away from you. It's just who you are.
I think that's so important, isn't it? I think as people comment more and more, our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter with the constant scrolling. And I think that desire for the quick fix can be incredibly dangerous. I was trying to do I don't want to mention any names, but I was trying to do a juicing thing, where you cut out everything and you only drink 3 or 4 juices a day. And then I ended up speaking to another person in the industry, a bit like yourself, who said it's a bit of too much of a quick fix. Even if you do it for like 28 days, it's still a quick fix. And it can actually mess up your metabolism in some ways. It's not really a lasting change, whereas it sounds like what you're talking about, more water, more natural, and what was the other thing, more plants. That just becomes a lifestyle shift, doesn't it? It's not as complicated as juicing.
Yeah. And I mean, this is not to demonize juicing. It's a powerful tool, and it serves a purpose within a certain holistic approach.
That's the key.
And it really has a lot to do with where you're at and what you're trying to achieve, because juicing is not a weight loss tool, I'm sorry to say. So right. If you're using, no, it isn't. It really, and whenever you shift to liquid calories, you are stepping further away from weight loss, from holistic, real, sustainable weight loss, because our bodies are meant to chew. They're meant to chew. We're meant to be chewing our food. It's where the digestion starts. It's what physiologically we have evolved to be able to. And again, there's a place in the world for juicing. It's a highly therapeutic, and very powerful tool, but it is not a weight loss tool. It is not.
That's where I think I was going wrong with it.
Yeah. If you think that you can juice your way to optimal, sustainable, permanent, long-lasting weight loss, you're gonna set yourself up for failure.
And I think that links back to what you were saying earlier, is especially as high-performing women, I think you're so used to setting your mind to something, being able to achieve it, and then things like diets or various training courses or going to fitness classes, all of them fall by the wayside one after another. And you do get into a bit of a shame spiral about it, don't you? So how do you help people overcome that part, so then actually they're sort of free of, not if that's even ever possible? How do they start again? How is that possible? How can you help?
It's so possible, and it is one of the most rewarding accomplishments of my day-to-day work, to see women liberated liberated from those weights that we put on our own shoulders, you know. It's just so beautiful, so empowering and so motivating, and it gives me so much joy and pleasure, you know, because I've been there, by the way. Let me tell you, food was my drug of choice. It was a very contentious subject for me for very many years. I've tried every diet under the sun. I have done it all. I've done all the wrong things. Frankly, that's where my wisdom in some respect comes from as well. It comes from experiential knowledge. I'm not one of those naturally skinny people that never has put on weight or that never has struggled with food. I'm quite the opposite, you know. I know exactly what doesn't work, and that empowers me in telling you why you shouldn't go down that route and what you should do instead. And like I said, 99% of what we perceive as being food problems are actually focus problems. That's what I say to our shifters. So the focus pillar and the food pillar are literally two of the same in many instances. So actually, you've got to first and foremost operate at the level of focus. Why are you looking for a short-term fix? You know, why are you trying to punish yourself thin? You know, why are you experiencing shame, fear, guilt, resentment, and regret? Let's look at it and let's transform that. Let's transcend that. At the same time, just as important, how are you actually feeding yourself? Are you feeding yourself in a way that your body is responding to positively? Are you giving it what it needs and therefore experiencing the magic, the joy of freedom around food? Because once you get, by the way, your body is your greatest ally, is not your enemy, you know? So know that your body wants to be healthy, light, agile, balanced, you know? You just got to give it the right things. And the moment you start giving it what it needs, and you find peace with that, and you find the harmony that comes from that, and the power and the empowerment that comes from that, you realize that actually it's way easier than you ever thought. You just didn't know. We keep doing these extreme things, to swing this pendulum from one extreme to the next. That balance constantly escapes us.
So it doesn't sound like you advocate something like for example, a strict diet plan, you know, a strict meal plan or anything like that, because you said earlier about making sure that you feel like you're living at the same time. Because I think sometimes we can feel like we've got to cut everything out that we enjoy, don't we? Like no booze, no chocolate, no crisps, no chips. And then you think, what's the point?
Terrible practice. Terrible practice, doesn't work, doesn't last. You're going to rebel. You're going to sooner or later. And by the way, willpower. Let's talk about willpower for a moment.
Do it.
They all come to me telling me, oh, I just lack willpower. This is like people who have achieved, women who have achieved such incredible things. I look at them like, you lack willpower? How? Look at what you've done. How do you lack willpower? The problem is the opposite. The problem is you're relying too much on willpower because you're choosing such unsustainable methodology and you're not doing the holistic work. You just sheer willpower your way through it. Well, guess what? Willpower is a muscle. So you can train it to get stronger, but if you don't rest it, sooner or later, that's it. It gives up on you.
That's a fascinating philosophy. Okay, yeah. So you think actually we need to rest our willpower. That's so useful for high performers.
If your strategy requires you to use constant amounts of willpower, it's the wrong strategy and it's gonna cause you to fall and break down because your willpower, you only have limited amounts every day. And that's why, by the way, we can make decent choices in the morning, but when the night comes in, you know, evening, after dinner, after 10 p.m., after 10 p.m. is when the monsters come out, you know, all the cravings come to surface.
Oh my God, that's so true. For me, it's about 6 o'clock. I'm like, probably need a glass of wine.
Yeah. But that's because you've run out of willpower. So, and because your approach, think think about all the decisions you've made all day long. It's like, so that's it. No more reserves of willpower. You don't have other strategies in place. Your strategy requires you to only use willpower. Once you run out, that's it. There's no saving you from those cravings. Whereas when you do the right kind of work, and it's holistic and it's bespoke and it's sustainable, willpower becomes the emergency brake. So it serves a purpose, but it's an emergency brake. Is when something unexpected happens, or is when, so it's like, okay, so I have my reserves because I don't use it all the time. I can resort to my willpower now. And again, we go back to the same thing. That's the distinction between harder work and smarter work. It's not, you don't lack willpower. You don't. In fact, it's probably the opposite. You're using too much of it.
Absolutely. And like a muscle, it gets tired. I have never heard somebody say that in all the training that I've done over the years. I think I think that's absolutely genius. That should be on mugs or on t-shirts, like for high performers all over the place. You don't lack willpower. It's just tired.
Yeah, it's resting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so that's awesome. So we've talked about how you can approach food differently and how disordered eating can become more ordered eating. We're not talking about food disorders,
no,
because that's a whole different mental health kettle of fish, just to make sure that that disclaimer's out there. We're just talking about disordered eating, which I think all of us at some point can, probably most of us anyway, not all of us, but everyone has a relationship with food. And so I think it's about unpicking that, isn't it? And like you said, just making it a bit more holistic and a bit kinder to yourself. How do you do the same sort of thing for exercise when you, so somebody like me, again, just because I'm here, let's use me as an example. I hate exercise, always have done. I always used to choose to be goalie in the team sports so I didn't have to run around. And now, of course, I'm getting bigger because my metabolism's slowing down as I get older. I don't look after myself very well. And then I think, oh, Christ, I've got to exercise. But you said there's ways of fitting that in 5 to 10 minutes a day. So how do you help high performers, frankly, like me, do things that are limited? Because I have a client that's in the same boat as well.
Yeah, so you don't have to exercise. You have to move your body. Already, that's two different mindsets, right? Because when you think I have to exercise, you think you've got to go to class, you think you've got to go to the gym, or you think you've got to follow a certain approach, or you think that. So already there's little boxes that you're trying to fit yourself in, which you don't like, you don't enjoy, you're going to resist forever. And so therefore it's going to become a must do rather than I want to do or get to do, So again, same thing. There's an element of focus there whereby you reframe your thinking around it. Chances are that the reason why you exercise so much is because in the past you forced yourself to do things that you simply didn't enjoy, or to work out in a way that felt really unpleasant and uncomfortable for your body, to do things that were too extreme for you, or just genuinely didn't work for you, So no, that's not it. For as long as you force yourself in those boxes, you're gonna resist it, resent it, and self-sabotage yourself out of it in some way or another. So there's an element of reframing your approach to how you move your body, because it's moving your body, it's not exercising. And then there's an element of figuring out solutions, ways, approaches that actually work for you, that you actually enjoy, that feels sustainable, that feels exciting, that feels like fun while you're doing them. You're not supposed to endure exercise. You're not supposed to suffer your way through it. Again, it's the punishing mentality, that kind of beating yourself up mentality, which is very strongly advertised. Just do it. What do you want to do when they tell you just do it? I want to raise my middle finger at them.
I want to have a sit down and a glass of wine, but then that's me most of the time.
I don't want to just do it. Why should I just do it?
I
at
don't
all.
want to. I agree.
No, no, or like, or those hit classes, push yourself through. It's like women trying to become men.
Exactly.
No, we need to stop.
Exactly. It's so testosterone fueled instead of, there's no nurturing involved, is there? There's no self-love. That's why the podcast is called Hardcore Sales, not Hardcore Sales, to try and move away from that pressure on ourselves all the
Because
time.
the world doesn't need more men like women. The world
No.
needs more women, us, our true, most authentic selves, because that's how we restore the balance. That's the balance that's lacking out there, is because we think we need to be more like men in order to succeed, not by our own fault, by the way. Again, we
No.
go back to education, societal pressures, etc. But it's like, no, we need to honor all those elements that make us uniquely who we are, in first and foremost, in how we take care of ourselves, how we show up for our own selves in our own lives. And then as a result of that, it actually becomes fun. It becomes pleasuresome. It becomes enjoyable. It becomes I get to do this rather than I have to do this.
That's gorgeous. Absolutely. I was live in another group this morning and talking about how to make your mornings better, because I'm a really bad morning person. So it's something I've been working on this year for myself. So I wanted to share that with other people. And I was saying the same sort of thing about actually having exercise as part of your morning routine. Doesn't have to be intensive. It doesn't have to be an hour's worth of HIIT classes. But it's just a way of saying thank you to the thing that's motoring you around the place, and reminding you to move and be grateful that you in here gets to go around the place. I mean, it's quite a wonderful thing, really, when you put it in those terms.
Absolutely.
So what I said this morning, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, was one of my clients has said, I'm not exercising enough. And I said, well, what's enough? They said they're an ex-PT. So they said, never a good language. I should be doing an hour of basically intensive HIIT cardio and all that kind of jazz a day. I said, well, maybe you should, but what about if you just got out of bed, put on your shoes and walked 10 minutes, turned around and walked back again? Because at least you'd be out in the world, you'd be looking at the blue sky, you'd see some birds, you'd be moving your body. Now, I have no exercise knowledge, but is that a decent place to start for somebody at least?
Frankly, any place is a decent place to start. If you're doing 0, doing 0.5 is remarkable. But I see this a lot. In fact, the people that tend to struggle the most in our experience are those who have achieved some level of success in the past. And so they think they know what they should be doing now. They're using the past as a framework for their present and future. And we do this in all areas of our life. We use the past as a framework for our present, how we need to operate in the present to create a better future, right? And that is very limiting, very, very limiting, because all of a sudden we are preventing ourselves from experiencing the endless amount of possibilities available to us in the present, which might create an even better future than our past. We think the best that we can achieve is as good as things were in the past. Well, what if you could achieve tenfold, 100-fold? And what if the way there looks nothing like what you've done in the past, or looks radically different? You need to pick and choose from the things from the past that worked. Most definitely let go of those that didn't work, or at least remain open to new possibilities, to the possibility that maybe your present has to look different if you're trying to create a different future, a better future.
God, that's so deep, isn't it? But it's so true. I mean, that's the same. That's the same with anything, isn't it? We all sort of want to achieve certain things, whether that's financial goals, whether that's certain number of employees or business growth and all those sorts of things. And like you say, if you continue doing what you were doing when you were a startup business, how can you possibly grow when you've got lots more employees? Like, your strategy has to change. And I think that's, again, what you were saying earlier about, it's one of the things we forget probably to extrapolate from business into real life is, we can change our strategies.
Yeah, we need to constantly upgrade. We need to remain radically open-minded in our approach to health and wellness first and foremost, because let us remember that, and this is, again, I get a little bit metaphysical there, but it's part of what makes us unique and what stands us out from the crowd. The way that you take care of yourself, the way that you eat, the way that you show up for yourself is the way that you do everything and anything in life. Literally, because your life is a representation, a manifestation of you and how you operate. It's an extension of you. This is another big mindset shift that we help our shifters make, is that of realizing that you want to be better at work, you want to be better as a mother, you want to be better as a parent. Because some of them say, oh, but I need to focus on my work. I'm like, yes, well, let's get to it. This work will make you better in that work, because it's the same. Hello, it's the same person.
Exactly. That's why the bottom of my pyramid's well-being as well, because without that foundation, your digital marketing is not going to make any difference if you can't handle what's coming in. I completely agree with you. I
mean, this perception that our life is like a house with rooms. Right? So there's the wellness room. It's a bit messy. Let me close the door. Don't want to go in there. When I have time, when I have money to hire an assistant, when I've finally achieved 6 digits, 7 digits, 8 digits, when my kids go to school, when my kids grow up, that's when I'll tend to the wellness room. Then there's the work room. Then there's the family room. So whenever it gets a little messy in one of the rooms, it's like, close the door. Well, guess what? Your life is open plan living. It's one big fat room. Everything, it shows up, whether you are willing to see it or not, whether you realize or not. It's just one big pot of energy. So if you're experiencing a loss of power at the level of health and wellness, you're experiencing a loss of power, full stop. And it's showing up in how you work, how you perform as a mother, how you perform as a wife, how you perform as a friend. You might not be realizing that. And I'm not saying this so that you can feel bad. Quite the opposite. I'm saying this so that you can see how improving in one area will improve everything, especially if that area is you.
Makes perfect sense. Absolutely. It makes perfect sense to me. Hopefully, people who are watching the replay can write #replay in the comments. Let us know you're here and whether or not that resonates for you too. So I'm conscious that we've only got about 5 minutes left. So what are, I don't know, maybe 3 actionable tips that people could take away? Do you think that maybe one for each of your pillars, or I don't know, 3 examples of exercise that they could easily do?
I'm an action-driven woman. I love theory. I love to read. I love to learn. And that's, by the way, that's the premise behind my book, which I'm going to show once more in case anybody wants to check it out. It's a workbook. I believe that taking new actions is the only way to achieve new results, right? So the first and most fundamental tip that I feel compelled to share with you is start now, today, do something different, whether it's getting a copy of my book, whether it's like you're doing, listening to this podcast, whether it is just eating one piece of fruit extra, or eating one nice, delicious salad, or one tiny thing that is shifting the needle for the better, drinking a glass of water, whatever it is, but you gotta start creating that momentum right now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for the next week. Don't wait for Monday. Right now, take action. Build the momentum now. The second thing that I feel compelled to share, because it's very empowering, we've developed what we call a scorecard questionnaire. It's a completely free tool. You don't have to pay anything. It takes less than 5 minutes. It allows you to score the current level of development across the 3 pillars. So that you can start realizing, okay, where is it that I have most room for improvement? It's not where I'm failing, is where I have most room for improvement. And you'll get tips on how you can start making improvements completely. I'm happy to share the link with you. Maybe you can pop it in the comments, whatever.
Yes, please.
So less than 5 minutes, do that, and that will start sparking new thoughts, you know. The final thing that I feel compelled to share, celebrate your accomplishments and your achievements. We have 5 proven steps that we apply across the 3 pillars. And these 5 steps allow you to strengthen the pillars in a systematic and conducive way. And the one which you should never, ever, ever neglect is to monitor your progress. Celebrate your wins. Because we're so forward thinking, so always constantly focused on what's next, what's to come, what do I need to achieve, what have I not done, what do I need to do better. We forget, we fail ourselves, we don't celebrate our successes, and guess what? Success is your greatest motivator, not failure, success. So if you perceive that you're doing well, you'll continue to do even better.
That's gorgeous. Absolutely. I train my clients to write a to-do list. So they can have a to-do list, but they have to have a to-do list. So then you can look back every week, at the end of every day, you can look back week, month, year, and go, golly, I've done loads. Because it's really easy to forget your successes when you're driven to moving forwards. I think that's a really good point. So how can people work with you? Has it got to be in person, or is it something they could do remotely? What options are there?
We have plenty of options. We have, of course, for anybody based in the London area, we have in-person shifts, we have remote shifts, we have group shifts. There's a variety, there's different tiers depending on where you're at and where you want to get to, and what suits you best. And I guess the best thing to do is schedule a complimentary strategy session, you know. So if you go, say, on the link in the bio of my Instagram, at Whole Shift Wellness, or even if you just fill in the scorecard questionnaire, there's an option at the end of the scorecard questionnaire if you wanna just schedule a complimentary strategy session, and we can delve deep and start unpacking what your roadblocks are and figure out if it's the right fit.
Awesome. And you're going to pop a link down for us as well for your book, so then we can make sure that we can get hold of that, because that sounds great as well. Thank you so much, Serena, for your time and your insights. It's just absolutely awesome to know that there's other people working from a really similar perspective to myself, and I really hope that it's provided lots of value to the group. If you're watching on replay, obviously #replay. And then if you've got any questions, either Serena or I can dive back on and make sure that we're answering them.
Gladly.
Fabulous. Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to see you soon again.
With great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bless you. Thanks, Serena. Ciao, everyone.